Welcome to Unofficial Commentary by the Unqualified. I am Adam. So, controversy this week. Radio station in the Midwest. Don't remember where. Quite honestly, when the story hit, didn't really care where because it's a dumbass story to begin with. But it evokes controversy as did a lot of things this holiday season, because what holiday season wouldn't be complete without someone having a problem with something? First we had the Great Rudolph incident. No, wait, that wasn't first. First was the Charlie Brown incident, where Charlie Brown Thanksgiving aired, and it was deemed racist because of the fact that Franklin was sitting by himself. Franklin is the only black kid in the Peanuts. He was sitting by himself on one side of the table in the only non-actual, interior house chair. He was sitting in a holding lawn chair. Whether or not that was intended to be racist at the time, or what it is or isn't, how it was viewed, what the historical context is, that's really something to get into, someone else. Really, I after doing some research, I couldn't find a good reason why they had him sitting by himself over there, and why they couldn't even out and have some people sit on one side and some people sit on the other. Because it's not like the shot was cluttered in any way, if people were spread out. But what are you going to do? So that was the first thing deemed racist this year. There was no good reason for it to, be like that. I don't think they're going to edit it in the future, and I don't think it's going to have any impact on airing of Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. But what are you going to do? That's something that was the first thing. Second thing, Rudolph aired, and Rudolph has always been a lot of Christmas stuff is weird. A lot of the mythology around Christmas is weird, considering that the way that Christmas works is that I'm going to mark this as explicit, so that way people know not to listen to this if they have a kid in the car, because a lot of the mythology around Christmas revolves around the fact that people grow up and they stop believing in Santa. Yet Santa still exists, so that's a plot hole in every universe that has Santa existing. That's a major plot hole that exists. It's that when you have that happen, how do the presents get delivered? Why do adults just not figure it? Why do adults have to push the believing when they themselves don't believe in something that obviously exists? And then again, we get into this argument when global warming is a thing that people don't believe in that actually exists. But herein lies the problem with Rudolph. Rudolph always had a very weird message of suppress your oddities until you are useful. And the movie expands on the myth of Rudolph to make it a half hour long instead of 3 minutes, or shorter than 3 minutes usually, because I usually put this on twice through. But the movie doesn't quite expand on it either, in any way that's meaningful. Where it's like Rudolph doesn't show up his bullies. Rudolph doesn't make his bullies, doesn't in any way prove himself to be better than... The only way he proves himself to be better than them is that, despite the fact that they bullied him and that everyone in his life enabled the bullying, he still comes out and helps. But really, that doesn't help. It's more of the story of Rudolph. If you've watched Daredevil recently, it's very like the story of Job, where Job's a pussy. In the words of Matt Murdock. Where you have, it's like the story of Job is that he was God's perfect servant. He did whatever God asked, and then God scorched his land, killed his kids, basically ruined his life. It was Old Testament dicky God. And Job was like, what are you going to do? And continue to, to worship God, even as God did all these terrible things to him. That's basically what Rudolph has. Everyone in his life is a dick to him, his entire life through. And if I remember correctly, the movie correctly, I haven't watched it in a while, he gets exiled at some point, or he runs away, I think is what it is, because he's bullied so much. And then it's like, the reason why he's chosen to lead the sleigh isn't because they feel bad for him, or they want to give him the opportunity because they realize they were wrong. It's that it's a utilitarian thing, where it's like, well, shit, how are we going to do this? I mean, we could put a flashlight on the front, or we can get this fucker to stand in the front, and he can lead the sleigh. See, that's what the whole thing is that it's like the moral of Rudolph isn't that the people around him realize that he's helpful despite his red nose. It's that he's useful because of it, and that's why we shouldn't bully it. Is that every defect has a use is basically what it is, instead of we should not just make fun of people to begin with. So that was the problem with Rudolph. Then came this, a radio station somewhere, I want to say it was Ohio or some state like that, said that they were going to not play Baby It's Cold Outside on the radio because it's not consistent with the Me Too movement and all of that. Personally, I've always had a problem with that. That song, it's always been weird. That one, like Santa Baby, I've always found very creepy. And some versions of I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus is weird too. Especially like Andy Williams' version, which you should really call like I Saw Mommy Rounding Third Base with Santa Claus. It's the whole thing is kind of disgusting. But there's a lot of weird things like that with Christmas that we say we get away with it because it's from a different time where things were different. Like on the way to where I am currently sitting recording this, I was listening to SiriusXM Holiday Traditions, and that should just be called, like, if you voted for Trump and you want to listen to Christmas music, this is the station you should listen to. Because it hits all those points. It's like from a kinder, gentler time. With people with personalities like Bing Crosby. I don't think anyone who knew Bing Crosby personally would say that was a kinder, gentler time. And I don't think a lot of people who were alive from the 40s, 50s, and 60s, especially the 40s, where one of the greatest human rights atrocities in the history of humanity happened, yet that's a kinder, gentler time. Okay? People were living in fear of nuclear annihilation. It's the reason why it's a kinder, gentler time, is because you were a kid at that point. So really, this is a channel for older people who want to listen to this music. But they played Glenn Miller's Jingle Bells, where in the middle of the song, for some reason, he does a fake Mexican accent and starts playing into Mexican stereotypes. Where one of the lines is, in literally explicitly this version of the song that I've never heard before. Hang on, I wrote it down over here. We sit around all day until the music plays. I can't read my own handwriting. And every time we sing Tequila Glasses Rain. That's incredibly racist. Like, it's playing into stereotypes about Mexicans, and it's doing something like that. Yet this song gets playtime on the radio several times over. There's also Mele Kalikimaka, which is slightly more racist. It's a very white person-centric view of Pacific Islander people. And it even plays into the stereotype where if you listen to the lyrics, it's the wise way to say Merry Christmas, because of the old stereotype of the wise Hawaiians and the elders and all of that. That we know now it's the wrong thing to say, but these things still get massive playtime on the radio, and they're covered by modern bands and things like that. And, like, I don't know why, Casey Musgraves, probably the whitest girl in country music right now, is doing a cover of Feliz Navidad. It just feels wrong for some reason. But all of that aside, this radio station's not playing Baby It's Cold Outside, which is a little bit rapey, where it's like the guy saying... Basically, let me sum up the song. If you haven't heard the song ever, it's a guy and a girl singing it. There have been, and usually the guy is the one trying to get the girl to stay. I've heard versions where it's flipped, where it's the girl trying to get the guy to stay. Either way, it's still weird either way. So the guy will say, so it's like, the girl will give reasons why she has to leave. The guy will give reasons that she has to stay. The guy's reasons aren't anything, drastic. And in today's day and age, maybe when the song came out initially it was different, because means of transportation were different. But even so, there was references to cabs even in the oldest versions of the song, considering I believe this song originated in the 40s and 50s, which actually cabs were a thing. So the girl's wanting to leave, and the guy's trying to get her to stay. The song takes a weird turn in the second act, the second verse, where it's like, he goes from just, like, pleading with her and trying to, like, compliment her and talk her up and do all these things to get her to stay, to, like, not threats, but more like omission threats is the way I would say it, where it's like, it's snowing really bad out there, you're not going to get a cab, like, he goes, like, how can you do this to me? Like, he's implying, like, she led him on, and it's like, how can you do this to me? How could you do this? And then it's like, the last line the guy says before Baby It's Cold Outside, for the last time, is, if you catch pneumonia and die. So basically what happens is, he's saying to the girl, you're free to leave, but because you won't fuck me, you're gonna go, you can freeze to death out there. I don't care, go freeze to death out there. Which really isn't a great message for a song. And quite honestly, I don't know about everyone else, but I prefer my Christmas music doesn't include death in it. Which is, unless it's Christmas Shoes, which is a sad song that if you want to hear someone break down, you can listen to Patton Oswalt's a bit about it, which is hilarious. Now, the radio station says they're not playing the song because it's not consistent with the Me Too movement's views. Here's my problem with this. Okay, it's kind of similar. I don't know if I talked about it on this. I probably didn't. My Barnes & Noble has 2 copies of Mein Kampf in the store. So I took a picture of it, and I sent it to my mom, and I said, this is weird. They have 2 copies of Mein Kampf here. That's a weird thing to have in the store. My dad said, well, not having it would be censorship. And I was looking around Barnes & Noble. There are a lot of books they don't have. Mine, the books that I've written, for starters. And in the entire wealth of human knowledge, they only have about two stories worth if you take out space for the toys and the action figures and the office supplies that they have loose, the nook spot, the space to walk around and all of that. You really can't fit the entirety of human knowledge into a 2-story Barnes & Noble. But they have Mein Kampf. And really, I feel like Mein Kampf is the kind of book that if you're going to get Mein Kampf, you are not going to go and buy it in person because that's just awkward to buy. Because any book that says written by Adolf Hitler on the front of it is going to be a little bit awkward thing to explain to the cashier. So, like, if you need to read it for a class on World War II or something, you're going to get it through your campus bookstore in a class set, and you're going to be able to be like, and then it's like, it'll be in with the class, with like, you know, what the class is on the front of it. So it's like, the person looking at it doesn't look at you like, oh, this guy's definitely a neo-Nazi. So here's my thought about carrying Mein Kampf and also about playing Baby It's Cold Outside or any of these really weird Christmas songs, is that you can not play it. And just don't bring attention to the fact that you're not playing it. Like, don't carry Mein Kampf in your bookstore. You're free to not, okay? No one's going to complain that you don't carry Mein Kampf. In fact, there are so many Christmas songs playing, and there are so many covers by so many people, that you can play through all the Christmas music between now and Christmas, and you will not run out of music before you have to resort to playing Baby It's Cold Outside. I feel like they play that Band-Aid song, Do They Know It's Christmas Time at All, which is also incredibly racist, and diminutive of what was going on in Africa at the time, and it's like, the lyrics to that song are, like, kind of hysterically, like, it's kind of like they're trying to be politically correct, but they missed it by like half a step, where it's like the only running water in Africa is their tears. Like, it's you went for it, like, E for effort, but you missed a little bit. But it's like, don't play the song, okay? Just don't play it if you don't want to play it. But don't say you're not going to play it. Because here's what happens when you say you're not going to play it. If I say I'm not going to carry Mein Kampf, or I'm not going to play this song, then what's going to happen is people are going to be like, well, why not? Why not? You're censoring. And then you create controversy. Okay? If you just don't carry it or don't play it, and just do that, no one's going to question it. Because it's not like there's anyone sitting in their car for 24 consecutive hours, listening to the radio, listening for you to play this song to say you play it or not. There are so many covers of Winter Wonderland, so many covers of My Favorite Things, so many covers of Christmas Time Is Here. There are so many songs that you can play, and there are so many covers that you can play that you don't need to worry about people being like, you know, oh, well, we gotta mix this in too. That's a song you can completely remove from it, and all the covers of it, not just certain ones. You can remove all the covers of that song and still have plenty of songs to fill the airtime. That you don't need to explain why it's not being played, because no one's going to ask why it's not being played. It's not like anyone goes, "Oh, I can't wait to hear Baby It's Cold outside on the radio." No one notices that. If there was a Christmas song that I haven't heard yet this year, I'm not concerned about it, and I'm not going to write a letter to Sirius or to Walk 97.5 or anything like that that's playing Christmas music, because I probably haven't noticed to be able to get incensed about them not playing one song. What I have noticed when I play the same song over and over again, like on Holiday when they play, I'm fairly certain there's more Christmas songs than just Christmas Wrapping by the Waitresses and Taylor Swift's cover of Silent Night, but they play those songs on a loop, and I've heard Band-Aid twice today on the same channel, and I'm not entirely sure why. So that's the problem with this. What they should have done if they really wanted to make a statement and not make it about them doing it, because that's what you do when you make a statement that you're doing this, is that you're saying, look at how great we are for not doing this, okay? Aren't we great? You're making it about you, not about the movement that you're trying to support. And that's what the problem is that if you're trying to support Me Too, and that's the rationale behind not playing this song on the radio, then what you should have made the statement and let someone point it out. That's the way you do it. You don't make this big statement, because all you do is create controversy, and all it does is make it look like you're just trying to get the old adage, there's no such thing as bad press. That's what this reeks of, and that's why it's disgusting. So, if you don't want to play the song, don't play it, but don't make a big deal about not playing it, and don't act like you're a saint for not playing it, okay? It's a fucking song on the radio. Calm the fuck down, everyone on both sides of the issue, because it's one fucking Christmas song, and it's not that big of a deal if they're not playing that one song. So, calm down, listen to another station if it's that big of a deal for you. Now then, I'm going to bring to the new segment I have on this show, What the Fuck Long Island, or no, I'm not going to call it that, that's oddly derivative of a bit they're doing on Hollywood Babylon. You're fucking stupid, Long Island. How about we'll call it that? You're fucking stupid, Long Island. And this comes from an article from Newsday, as usual. Newsday is the toilet paper that they put out from the company that does Cablevision. You know what? Let's address that this episode. We will address that. Hang on one second. Okay, so let's address that this time instead of, what's it called? We're going to address the incestuous nation relationship between the news, the company that runs our cable and internet, and the rest of Long Island. So Long Island we live within the New York metro area if you're on Long Island, and you have the New York Times, the New York Post, the Daily News, the Wall Street Journal, all kinds of things. But Long Island also has this piece of shit that they put out called Newsday. Newsday is the same company as News 12, which is a local television station on Cablevision, or Optimum, if you have it. There's a New York, Long Island version, there's a Bronx version, there's a New Jersey version, but they're everywhere. There's Connecticut versions, all the metro areas have their own version of News 12. So that's, what's going on there. That's all owned by Altice, which is the company that owns Cablevision. Now, Cablevision is the company that provides internet, phone, and television service to the majority of people living in the area. And now, internet, you don't get much of a choice, and same thing with phone. You don't get an option to go with another company because of the lockout that they have on the area, because of how much they fund the towns on Long Island. So basically, here's what happens. There's no criticism of these companies, because the majority of news for the area, Long Island's weird, okay? Long Island's a weird duck, for lack of a better word, where they're very regional-centric. If you're from the city, you're an outsider. If you're from Nassau, you shouldn't comment on Suffolk County issues. You shouldn't comment on Nassau County issues if you're from Suffolk County, and vice versa. I definitely just repeated myself there. Anyway, so because of that, people don't like watching the major news networks, 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, all of those. They would rather watch Channel 12, which is Long Island's regional news center. Now, here's the thing about that. that's filtering down everything through the lens of what Altice wants them to cover. Altice is the parent company of Cablevision and Optimum and all that. So, there's no criticism of Altice from the news. So people aren't seeing that the news is doing things that's, not illegal per se, but immoral, unethical, should be illegal. It's a government-funded monopoly. But the fact that exists doesn't get reported on the news. So therein lies the problem. And what I wanted to talk about, I want to do a little bit more research into it before I talk about it, is a library proposition for the town of Blue Point, Bayport Blue Point, and how they want to not put a library in. And Bayport Blue Point has had a history of very shady shenanigans happening with their school boards, if I remember correctly, and I'm not thinking of someone else. But we will address that in a later episode. So for this episode, we will wrap up with, if you're getting incensed about Christmas music, consider this for a second. Think about all the problems that you could be having. Housing problems, school problems, problems with work. If the biggest problem in your life is that your local Christmas station is not playing one Christmas song, then consider yourself lucky. Because it could be a lot worse. And that's where we'll wrap up for today.